Hey everybody, welcome to episode 72 of FoundersGyan and thanks for tuning in. Each week we talk to a startup founder about actionable items that is useful for other startups. This week we are talking to the founders of PlayAblo, a very successful educational app startup. The founders are Dheeraj Sharma and AnanthaKrishnan Krishnan. And our topic for discussion is overview to building a gamification platform. Do check out the show notes at foundersgyan.com/EP72 for the show notes for links to all that we talk about on the show. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi everybody, today's guest on our show is Dheeraj Sharma and AnanthaKrishnan Krishnan. They are the founders of PlayAblo.com, that is PlayAblo.com, which is a gamification platform. So thanks a lot guys for taking time out.
Thank you.
So let's quickly jump into it. And before we jump into talking about today's topic, which by the way is an overview to building a gamification platform for our listeners out there who wants to do it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company quickly in 2-3 sentences, and then we'll get right into the main meat of the topic.
Sure, thanks Ram. Quickly, Anant and I both have about 2 decades of experience each in the IT space. Anant has a very strong background in products, and I have a background in software testing. As far as education goes, my relationship with that began with my family. My father was a principal in a school in Dehradun. My wife is a Montessori practitioner, and I have 2 young children who fall in the same category. So that's my space. Anant?
Thanks for having us, Ram. My name is Anant, and as Dheeraj said, we have about 20 years of experience. My experience, of course, comes from a very different background of BFSI and capital markets, very financially intense. Why did we choose this education initiative? I think we've always been passionate about questioning the status quo and how do we improve things to make things better for everybody's life, and what more to work on than try and make our children's life better by giving them better education. Hence this initiative. We thought we really had a great idea in terms of what problem we wanted to solve, more than trying to see what product we are building.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it just evolved over a period of last year and a half, and then that's where we are today.
Okay, excellent. Now let's talk about what are the benefits of a gamification platform. I think this might be very basic to some listeners, but may not be so basic to other listeners. So I'm sure people have heard about gamification platform, but could you list out maybe a few advantages or benefits?
Yeah. So before we get into what is the platform about and things, I think it will be good for some of the listeners to know what actual gamification. It's a very abused word in today's IT world, right? I mean, what is anybody wants to talk about gamification? We have gamified this, gamified that. But what is gamification? Just for the uninitiated. A gamification is not like building a game, right? It is just extracting the essence of. So we don't have to encourage almost anybody, including kids, to actually go and play a game, right? That happens innately. That's self-motivated. But that does not happen when we have to go and motivate ourselves to work or motivate ourselves to go and study and things like that. What is gamification? It is extracting what really self-motivates. If you were to be playing a game, bringing those qualities into what you want to do in some sort of a framework, hopefully, right? That is gamifying the experience. So gamification is actually bringing in the positive experiences of what a game really does to one, and ensuring that you still achieve your targets. It could be gamifying a framework for a better salesmanship, or gamifying a framework to motivate your own team to do better and things like that. Or in our case, motivating the child to actually self-evolve and self-motivate and study better. Right? So that's a whole fundamental idea of what gamification is all about, right? It's not the same as building a game. It is extracting the aspects that actually inspire a child to go and play a game and putting it in a framework to fit your own already existing goals.
Right. So the benefits are users are more engaged. What's the top benefits? I mean, is the gamification platform better than, say, an online shopping platform? People might like to shop online, so.
Right. So I'm not sure if they're the right comparison, online shopping versus gamification. But the benefits of gamification are straightforward, like you said, right? Number one is extremely engaged user. If you build the right gamification experience, the engagement is much higher, right?
Right.
And to whatever aspect of the corporate service or education service that you're linking it to, you would hope that that element kind of gets enhanced in the process, right? So, for example, if you're building a gamification experience in which you are saying that now how well are my employees engaged with corporate announcement, for example, or in terms of helping each other in, let's say whatever, right? For sharing code base within the organization, or in our case, how well are we engaging children to be self-motivated to learn and enhance their knowledge of certain skills, whatever they're taught in school, right? So the output is not only is the child or the player engaged more, the core need for that is also served at a much higher and a cleaner and purer form, that kind of enhances along the process. So that is the whole need of it, right? If it was not for the whole gamification piece, there is no need to build a game for for stuff like this, right? You still have, for example, schools, they are teaching, right? You still have HR guidelines in corporate. Now you got to do this stuff. There you go to whatever shows so much of savings, right? All that is still there. The mandates are there. You got to do it, right? The game makes it more fun. As human beings, we are naturally wired to get into a slight healthy competition kind of mode, right? And a gamification experience actually enhances that whole pieces out, right? So the core purpose is solved in a much, like I was saying, like much purer and more enthusiastic, contribution from all people involved.
And just to add, like PlayAblo.com is a platform that helps, correct me if I'm wrong, helps kids learn better or learn additional topics or revise their topics that they are learning in school through the gamification platform, right? If I'm
correct, yeah. So, just one short sentence to explain that. We are a gamification platform that helps children do two things. Number one, reinforce whatever they've learned in school, and second, enhance and increase their grasp of those concepts in the process of actually what we call is improve the learning outcomes. So reinforce the concepts, increase the grasp of the topic they're learning, and improve the learning outcome in the whole process. The product is currently catering grades 1 through 5.
Okay. English and Maths, CBSE,
grades
and grades 1 to 5. 1 to 5.
So I think the important aspect is, why did we choose gamification for this platform? I think that's the most important.
Correct.
It's not just the gamification aspect that will enthuse the child, and it's back to education, right? I think we didn't. It's very important because books are not going anywhere. I mean, a child shouldn't, or a parent shouldn't mistake this for a game.
Right.
I think that's some fundamental essence of gamifying one's experience versus actually experiencing a game. Two very different things we're talking about. Theoretically, gamification actually has a very scientific connotation to it. A guy called Yukai Chow actually built a framework called octalysis of gamification. It can be referred in Wikipedia. It has 8 facets that are very well defined to ensure that the outcome of gamification is self-motivation, a much more engaged audience in whatever shape or form, in whatever experience they are getting engaged in, and what is the best outcome. See, as a human being, the more we love what we do, the better the outcome is, right? So I think that's the philosophy behind this entire Octalysis. Well, there are 8 different facets which he has defined, saying for an entire gamified experience, all of these aspects are. Let me talk about a couple of aspects, right? For example, socially motivated, right? If, as against a child sitting in his or her room and studying by herself, if there is some kind of a group that is sitting together and studying, naturally the kids tend to be more involved, right? There is a healthy peer-to-peer competition, there is sharing of knowledge. See, that is one aspect of gamification that already happens in some shape or form with our kids today, right? Then there is the aspect of self-motivation. Let me challenge myself more, right? And then there is the aspects of, am I getting some benefit out of this, right? Obviously, at the end of the day, I think if we are doing something, we expect something in return, right? Though our Indian philosophy is quite against this, don't expect it. But I think at the end of the day, we are human beings, we expect something out of it. So the instant outcomes and the instant gratification is something that the Octalysis framework also talks about, right? So these are some of the aspects that we have really thought through, and it's easier said than done, right? This is a very generic framework that he has actually prophesized, if you will.
Right.
But you have got to think as your product or as your service, whatever the case is, you got to see what of these facets fit best for your solution, right? You may not be able to fit in all the 8.
Right.
For example, self-motivation may be fantastic for a child, but then from an education point of view, how do you motivate a child for social aspect may not be a very good fit, or maybe, right? We're trying to still fit it's an adaptation of these concepts that the framework defines that ultimately probably gives a very, very well-defined gamified experience for them. So that's how I would put it as. So fundamentally, this Octalysis framework is a very good reference point for those of our listeners who
Octalysis framework, okay. I'll add that on Wikipedia. Okay, so I said I will add it on Wikipedia, which I meant I'll add it on the show notes, the Wikipedia link. Of course, I can add it to Wikipedia also. As we know, anybody can add anything to Wikipedia.
It's not there, but if you look at gamification on Wikipedia, Octalysis framework is there.
Right. Now, I think let's talk about getting the product design right, and what are the key challenges and key elements that we need to keep in mind when we are trying to get the product design. Obviously, this framework is there to try and extract some of these things, but it's easier said than done, like Anand, you mentioned. And before we get to that question, neither of you are from a gaming background or gamification background, right? So, was this a big challenge? How did you guys overcome this big challenge?
Yeah, I mean, we'll start off on the background of how we can got all of this. So I will credit a lot of what we built on my professional experience in terms of, so my professional experience has been into software testing. And I've lived and worked in 4 different countries with multiple customers of various backgrounds, various industries. Right? So one thing I realized over the course of my experience is that success of any platform or a product or any application depends extremely on the users who are using it and how they expect it to behave, if what they really want from a product like that. And it got really good ingredient in my mind. I've been working with a lot of customers very closely with their marketing teams, various initiatives and all. So when we started the whole piece, right, we knew that our background was not into design, is not where we had trained for, right? We had done that, right? But we had a reasonable appreciation for that piece, right? So the way the whole started, one is to find the right partner. So we found a very nice partner called Think Design, in Bangalore, who actually helped us do the whole UX and UI design for the product. But the bigger thing was not just finding a partner to do a UX and UI. The biggest thing was realizing that when you get into building the product, do the design first. Another design first, as in the UX and UI. Don't get technology to model it. Right? And we are both, very good fans of how Apple has evolved, as opposed to, other companies, right? So and I've thought always that you start with design, technologies and developers and the constraint that come with that. It should come later on. And this is my very serious recommendation to anybody who cares to find out more about the whole element of design piece of it. Design, the design, but how the app is going to behave or application is going to behave, not just the mobile device. Do that piece first. And once you got to some level of maturity in the way that experience is defined, then bring on board the technology elements part of it. And I think that's been a huge learning for us. Thankfully I got good guidance initially, and I think it's worked out well for us. As opposed to fitting design once the components are been built.
No, so I understand the part about design, getting the design first and all that, because obviously that's very important. But I'm still not able to relate to the fact that the design was there, but how did you understand that these are the elements that needs to be in the platform or in the app. For it to be like a proper game. It's more than design, right? It's psychological, you could say.
Yeah. So I'll just complete that piece. So very frankly, right, the product that we have right now is not the product we started with about a year and a quarter back. Right? It was very different, right? And I think a year from now, if you talk to us, we'll have even more different product, right? The important piece is you keep taking constant feedback from the actual users. So when we did initial whatever, right, UX and UI, right, we ran through those screenshots to multiple children and parents. So that's our audience, right? And we kept taking the feedback. There's where is this piece? How do we do that? And you keep bringing them back to the design team, bring them back to your workshops. Guys, we've not done this piece, we've not done that piece. So you keep taking that external breathing, to the frequency possible, and keep tweaking your product, right? And kind of keep working that piece out. So that is very important, right? If you build a product over the course of 1 year within 4 walls, highly unrecommended. Right. To keep taking that constant feedback.
Right.
I think two pieces, right? As a product philosophy, I mean, more than trying to build the product itself, I think it is very essential to ask, start with the why. I'm sure many of our listeners have read the book by Simon Sinek. Start with the why. Right? I mean, that is fundamentally, as Dheeraj mentioned, right? That's what is the philosophy we have adopted, right? We did not say we'll start with this product or we'll build this product. Why are we doing this? I mean, more than anybody else, we need to be convinced that this is the right thing to build, right? Even more than the user sometimes, because many a times the end user may not know what he or she wants, right? That is also the part of being, great part of being or building a product. And it's since we are talking about the topic of gamification, I think it's very important to know why would gamification fit in this solution problem that we are trying to solve in the first place.
Right.
It's
why can't you just
very easy to be seduced by this gamification and try and build a whole big framework around something that may actually not require gamification at all in any form, right?
Right.
I think it is very important to figure out what aspects of gamification is best fit for your product to bring out its flavor. It's more like in cookery, they say, you garnish it to bring out flavors. You don't garnish it for it to look nice, not just look nice. I think that's the essence of it. It's also equally important to know when gamification should not be done. Right? I mean, I guess that in itself is a big topic, but then it's important for the the designer or the thinker to say what is the best fit for us and what should definitely not be an aspect of gamification that they want to adapt. Right? I mean, because at the end of the day, let's not forget the entire Octalysis framework was designed from essence of playing games, right? You don't want that to have a negative connotation on some very serious topic like education for a child, right? I mean, naturally a child will love to hear that I'm allowed to play game while studying, But as a parent, even I sometimes fret that my child should not be childish but childlike when studying, right? It's a very different, but a very nascent difference. It's equally important for us to know what is great about gamification, but what does not fit perhaps takes equal weightage, in my opinion, during the original building of or designing the product.
If you like the show, do follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The link is www.facebook.com/FoundersGyan and twitter.com/FoundersGyan. Both these provide you daily tips and articles as well as resources to help and inspire your startup. There are multiple tips per day. Some examples of these tips would be articles on the latest startups, growth hacking tips, how do you build team for startups, how to get funding, etc. So don't forget facebook.com/FoundersGyan and twitter.com/FoundersGyan. So great tips there. So I want to start with why Ananth you mentioned and get feedback from users, and obviously the other thing is not everything could be fit into a gamification platform because it just may not work, and I think I'm not saying a lot because gamification of a platform is tough, so it's not something that everybody ventures into, but I think maybe some people might have the wrong idea that let me gamify my platform just for the sake of gamification.
While we all get seduced into trying to fit gamification on top of what we have, is this the right place to fit in is a very important, I would say equally important question to ask ourselves.
Okay, so let's assume that we have come to the point where we know that we want to have this gamification platform for whatever reason, it fits in with what we are doing, and we have kind of extracted the main elements from the, what is that thing again, the
Octalysis framework.
Right? Octalysis 8, right? So Octalysis framework, and then is there any other things that we need to think about, maybe some biggest tips and pitfalls that you can think about in your own experience on what happens? I mean, what could go wrong? What were some of the things that you were not very confident but actually turned out to be a great thing? Could you talk from your own experiences?
Yeah, I could cite a couple of examples readily.
Sure.
What could go wrong? Definitely a child, let's take our own product, right? A child is so enthused by this gamification that he or she kind of spends too much of time, right? It's unlike a manufacturing industry, a highly optimized or highly utilized child is not what we want. A highly optimized child's habits is what we want. Overindulgence.
End of the day, again,
it's a device.
Right.
Parents will be cognizant about how much of screen time my child does. So that's it's a given, right? It's a no-brainer that gamification will always have some cons as well, right? That is one clear example we can see. Second one, I could probably cite from the healthcare industry. Today, so much of IoT and so much of self-health involvement with these Fitbits and whatnot. It's very easy to, it's the happening thing, so why not I also buy it? And it's actually a gamified implementation.
Right.
I am challenging myself, I am lifting my own bar. Today I've burnt, say 500 calories, let me raise it up to 750. That's a very classical, good implementation of gamifying experience. But do I burn out myself? That's the other side of the same coin, right? I've got to question myself, have I pushed myself too far? It's about the optimum, right? While all of these frameworks are great theoretically and even greater if applied in the right sense, I think it's up to the end user, consumer, to make the optimal utilization of it. It's like a scientist creates a nuclear bomb with a nice thing in mind, right? To make it proper, make good use of
nuclear fusion.
But there is obviously the other side of the coin which we all faced in today's world. So I guess it's about the balance.
Right, because I think even when you mentioned Fitbit, I think even a lot of apps are there for like jogging, running, walking, all sorts of things, and especially if you're like slightly older, the chances of injuring yourself is high, like you try to push yourself and the chance of injuring yourself is high. So you also mentioned that is there any example that you could give on something that in your own platform maybe you were very confident when you launched, something that kind of didn't seem good, or you weren't very confident but actually turned out to have great feedback. So it's kind of like a thing that, again, going back to Dheeraj, what you said, it's not being within the four walls but getting customer feedback. Any examples of that?
Leaderboard is a great example, actually.
Great example.
So leaderboard is a great example, right? So we had mixed inputs about putting a leader. So our leaderboard, I apologize, I had to go slightly specific how we've done the leaderboard implementation. So leaderboard allows the child to be kind of benchmarked or kind of look where they stand compared to other children who are in their grade and in their board. Right? So we have some customization, right? You can do it for your subject or in certain geographical areas, in your school or in the city or whatever, right? So we had to make feedback, should we do it or should not do it? Will children be kind of demotivated? Will they be happy? And so we were slightly iffy about the whole piece, right? But we built it out anyway. And it turned out to be a resounding success. We figured that we've seen a lot of children, right? Starting very closely at home and then outside, right? Children are extremely kind of eager to take a look at the scores as soon as they finish a small game, go back, look at the rankings, how they've gone up and down. If a friend of theirs is playing, or so, my friend is catching up with me and I'm doing all that. So that has actually been extremely a huge success. Right? And we were being told that young children may get demotivated, so just be careful and all.
I think that's a very classical example, right? I mean, the whole philosophy of it is trying to encourage, but then that could also end up discouraging some kids,
right?
For example, right? So we were complacent when we initially designed it, but hopefully majority of the kids actually liked the experience. We saw the positive coming out and inspiring them more than kind of demotivating them in any sense.
So I want to go back to one question one point that Dheeraj mentioned, and that kind of ties in with my next question. So the whole point in any app like this or a platform that's especially gamification platform, maybe we could say, not necessarily gamification, but I think it's very important in a gamification platform is to constantly innovate the platform to make it more engaging. Now, one of the main things is feedback, right? Like you said, if users like some features, for example, the leaderboard, you have just talked about it, then you could think about various ways to make it more exciting for the users. Maybe add more, add more geographies or like leagues, whatever. I don't know the exact terms that you guys are using. But at the same time, user feedback sometimes says, I don't like this. It's very vague and very general, right? So how do you actually extract the essence of that and maybe come up with additional features, So how do you innovate on building new features when, like Anant, you said, the user doesn't know what they want, right? Sometimes. So that's a big challenge, right? So how do you overcome that in a gamification platform?
So I think this is a very classical example. What we are evolving as a product itself is a part of gamification, right? I mean, how do I get better? Probably we should gamify our own thought process here. I think it does implicitly. We evolve as a product through external breathing and our own subject matter expertise, and also the fact that these are children we are dealing with, especially when we talk about our product. Children really like great surprises. So it is very difficult to please a child, actually more than an adult. So the gamification experience has to be constantly evolving and perhaps increasing in challenges, increasing in the degree of difficulty perhaps. I guess we don't hear about Angry Birds anymore, which was viral fever just a year back perhaps, right? I mean, such a big app, such a world-renowned app can lose steam. Perhaps because we have probably not seen enough and more versions of it, or maybe there are better virtual augmented reality games like the Pokemon Go that has really shifted the user. So
the way the user plays
the user expectations have completely transformed, and maybe a child of 5 years from now may not like the gamification that we are doing today. They might want to have a virtual reality classroom and then dynamically studying with a child who is studying in the UK, for all you know, right? I think it is important for us to question ourselves, and it can be a vicious cycle or a virtuous cycle. It depends on how we take the product. It can be a vicious cycle if you get into trying to catch up with what the market trend is. It can be a virtuous cycle if you try and set the trend in the market, right? Obviously, everybody would want to be the latter. And how easy or difficult, I guess it's for us to, each individual to kind of discover that. But needless to say, even gamification has to keep evolving, which is the very reason why we have stuck to the grades 1 through 5 for now.
So
right? In our own case, the gamified experience that a third grader would love and or fall in love with will be very, very different. The expectation as you go to grade 6 and 7, he or she is no longer going to like it because I have outgrown this. Right? It's a very classical example of, in our own case, where we got to be, we were very cognizant that it's not going to work if we have the same gamified experience in the same app for two different people. So that's how varied the expectations are in the same app. Forget different applications, right? So needless to say, we've got to evolve, not just keeping in mind what we want to give to the customer, not just keeping in mind what the customer wants. Probably the answer lies somewhere between the two, right? So that's how we should evolve.
I think the other piece of the question that Ram was alluding to was, so you talk to customers, you talk to users, children, right? You get a lot of feedback, right? Now, how do you decide on what to work on and what not to work on?
Right. So I think that's a very key.
That's the piece, right? So I mean, so means we are, of course, right? Like any, not just startup, right? Any company as well has only limited resources. Nobody has infinite, right? So you can only put them in certain spaces. You will have to do something in some pieces. You have to kind of put in a background something that you have to drop. So one thing that we do here is, we are just lucky to have our team composition which has a very wide variety of people. People who have children, people who have been teachers, who are parents, right? So we kind of run it past all of us, kind of brainstorm on those pieces, right? And see what are the other trends where the whole gamification industry is trending towards. What are people enjoying, right? And then you kind of take in our collective wisdom, take a call. I mean, it's a very simple answer to a very complicated question, frankly.
So I know. Like, I mean, I've been like having the same thought through my mind because we are trying to demystify something that is very complex in a very simple question and answer format, and I do understand that it's tough. So thank you guys for trying your best, because I'm sure if everybody knows the answers to how to create the next killer game, I'm sure everybody would do it, right? So it's a complex topic, and it's not that easy. So I just have a couple of final questions. But before I move on to that, I just want to hear about what would you do? I mean, you were mentioning that 1 year back the product was different, now it's different. Maybe 1 year back, 1 year on, it might be something else. So if you had to do this all over again, supposing you had to start today, and let's say you had to build this whole platform, what would you do different? Of course, hindsight is always 2020. So let's leave aside, okay, kids said this feature is good, that you cannot predict without actually somebody experiencing it. But in general terms, is there anything that you do different if you started this today?
It might be very specific to what we are doing, right? For example, the platform we chose initially to go with, and that is very, very specific to space where we are in, what we're doing, right?
That's fine.
We may probably have gone with the tablet version as opposed to the phone version. The initial version of the product was phone alone.
Okay.
And
Mobile.
The mobile Android phone alone, Android mobile alone. But we realized that a lot of parents, as far as education for children goes, a tablet is what they associate with more closely.
Not with the phone.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we had some rational why we went with the phone, right? You know, the proliferation of the device.
Right.
Is the Android phone is the most prolific smart device in India right now. That's the choice we made, right? If we were beginning in US, we probably might have gone with the iPhone, or the iPad, right? But so that's something that we probably would have done differently.
Anand, do you have something?
I think one other aspect, again talking about gamification itself, probably we were too busy trying to fit the framework from a child point of view. Maybe what I would have done differently is how would we engage the other key stakeholders in the education,
the parents,
the parent and the teachers. Perhaps I don't know if gamifying their experience would help in any way, but maybe that's a thought I might have given. But at the end of the day,
at the end of the day, I think kids are the ones playing the game, but parents and teachers have a big say.
It's a serious aspect to
big stake. If they encourage, only then the chances of kids playing is there.
Absolutely.
Right. So thanks guys for sharing that. Now I just have last final questions. So are there any books or resources and tools that you would recommend in terms of gamification? I know you already mentioned the
Octalysis.
I don't think I'm ever going to get that. Octalysis, I'll refer to my show notes again and again. Octalysis framework, I think you mentioned that and Start With Why by Simon Sinek. That's another book. Any other books, resources? Could be with startups, could be with gamification, could be with product design.
So as far as the gaming goes,
reservoir of books.
Okay, then we'll restrict it to 2 or 3.
No, I'll just call only one book. Okay. I'll keep it simple for you. So anybody getting into gamification of the platform or trying to build out a game, there's a wonderful book I would like to refer called Reality is Broken by Jane McGonigal. I've really learned a lot from that. I mean, the way she sees things and the way she anticipates how the future of gaming is going to evolve over the course of next few years, couple of decades, right? Is wonderful. So highly recommend it. If you get a chance, take a look. It's available all over. The Reality is Broken by Jane McGonigal.
Anand, do you have any books, or you're the CTO, so maybe something in terms of tools and stuff like that you think is essential, or good?
Gamification is more of an experience. Technology is the tool, to simply put, right? I think it is the culmination of how best you can implement this experience using the best of technology is what I think the ultimate deliverance to the end customer, right? The end user is. So my take on that is how well you design your product with, and gamification plays an important role as part of your design itself, as Dheeraj said, rather than trying to superimpose gamification on an existing product. I think people should concentrate more on that. Technology is just an enabler, so that can no longer be a differentiator.
Okay, so I just have one final question. And
can I mention one more book along the value?
Yeah, sure.
So I've been referring this to a lot of people, right? So one element along with just gamification is also the element of this whole design thinking. It's again used quite a bit nowadays, but there's some. So the book I read recently called Solving Problems with Design Thinking. It's I think published by the University of I think Carolina. I'll have to kind of email that to you.
You can send that to me.
It has some 10 absolutely wonderful case studies about design thinking, and they're not technology design thinking. So there is one case study about technology also. There is about 10 extremely different spaces. One case that talks about how the elderly in Denmark reduced eating the government subsidized food, and how you solved that problem via design thinking. Absolutely brilliant. Right? And it's got like 10 other case studies like that. So a highly recommended book. If anybody gets a chance to look at it.
Excellent. We'll link all these on the show notes page so that people have a easy way to refer these. Now, before I move on to the final question, what's the best way to reach out to you guys? So obviously they can go to the Google Play Store and download PlayAblo.com. That's not PlayAblo.com, PlayAblo, I guess.
Yeah.
PlayAblo and download it to experience the game for them, the educational game I have had for themselves, their kids. And of course the website is PlayAblo.com. But if there are founders who are looking to reach out to you guys personally, what's the best medium? LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, blog? What's email? What's the?
We're on all platforms. Ananth is not on Facebook. Okay. Other than that, we're everywhere. There's also, our tagline is
It's just simply not gamified enough for me.
Our tagline is stay curious. So just write to curious@playablo.com. Email will get to us.
Okay.
And of course, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Okay. So I'll get those links from you guys. LinkedIn,
Sure.
Facebook, Twitter, whatever social medias that you're active on, and link that on the show notes page. So if there is one gyan, I know we have talked about a lot of different things, and maybe it could be a repeat of something you have said, or it could be something new. But if there's only one gyan that you want to give with regards to gamification of platforms for startups, specifically we are targeting startups here, what would that be? I'd like each of you to give only one gyan.
I would just say this: start with the why. I think that answers every question. Keep asking why until you're convinced that yes, this is why.
There are a lot of gyans here. So I have to kind of figure out which is one gyan, right?
Just assume that only this is going to end. This is going to be Dheeraj's advice to the startup community on gamification. So best foot forward.
Okay, so I'll tell you something, right? So we bootstrapped for a very, very long time. We are still bootstrapping, for example. By the way, you know that as co-founders alone, you will not make it happen. You need a team. And if you're bootstrapping, you only have so much resources. And by resources here, I literally mean cash.
Right.
In back, right? You only have so much money, right? And you only have that kind of office space, if you can call it office space, right? But you still need the right team. I would highly recommend to wait to hire the right person as opposed to settling in with whatever is available for you. Because even in the market space of whatever is available, who are not kind of already hired by other large established funded startups or companies, there are some pretty smart people out there. The cultural fit, really, the cultural fit of the employees into the organization is extremely important. Extremely important. So that's it. Balance, things will fall into place.
Okay.
Things will have the right team.
Excellent, Gyan guys. And Dheeraj, I know you had mentioned that one of the things that we could talk about and maybe we will explore in a future episode is how to hire the right people even when you don't have a fancy office space. I don't know if
So apparently,
before we do that episode, you moved a fancy office. But if you do, please note it down. We will talk about it in a future episode.
So apparently, there is a great story in the very same book I spoke about. Start with the why, about hiring the right people. It's a fantastic. That's definitely.
Okay. Thanks, guys. So it was wonderful chatting with you guys, and wish you all continued success with your venture.
Thanks, Ram.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
Thank you, folks, for your time and listening to this podcast. Do leave your comments and feedback either on iTunes or the show notes page, which is at www.foundersgyan.com/EP72. I'll see you all next week with yet another startup founder and an interesting topic. Till then, take care and good luck on your own startup adventure. Bye for now.